Cloudy World. And man, we got to talk about this man, Anthony Edwards, and kind of his choice and who he picked as his partner, because we found out that he's actually dating Chief Keef's baby mama, Jeannie Couture Robel, and they actually got a kid together too. This woman is in her late 30s, and Ant is what, 21, 22? So we gotta talk about all that stuff, and they also actually started dating when he just turned 18, so it get deep. Now, when we speak about a lot of this stuff, I try not to judge a lot of people, because who you interact with as a grown adult is who you interact with as a grown adult. I feel like there should always be some type of air of respect with that, because you can't really try to police a grown adult to do whatever a grown adult don't want to do. They can decide, especially when they're a very affluent young adult. Now, a great example of this is Chief Keef, man. Now, Chief Keef and this woman met when he, 16, 17? And she was late 20s at that time. And that should kind of give you an idea of the kind of either woman or character that she has, to where she kind of keeps finding herself in these situations with very young men, and maybe young men who haven't found their way yet, but definitely young affluent black men who are still figuring things out. Now, it's nothing about her as a person, that's just reality. And so when we look at this man, Anthony Edwards, we're seeing how this man just, if you didn't know, is very close to signing his Supermax. Now, if you don't know, Anthony Edwards is one of the, if not the star player for the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves just had a really good season with him, and honestly, they've been looking into developing his skill more and really doing some big things. Now, what these big things could be would be the Supermax, where a Supermax for Ant would be legendary. That's because right now there's a lot of things going on where there's more marketability, more ads, more money, and more exposure on the NBA, meaning that there's bigger and bigger contracts that are being laid out for these athletes. People are probably saying, well, Cloudy, if these athletes and these NBA players are getting some of these $100, $200, $300 million contracts, what about the WNBA? Well, the reason why they're kind of struggling is kind of nuanced. One is that before the last year or two, they never made a profit in the last 20 to 30 years. That's because the NBA had actually been covering their costs and kind of keeping them afloat. Now, this was a mixture of not only bad exposure and, a lack of media really pushing the WNBA, but it also had to do with it that the main audience for the WNBA is men, and that not a lot of women really care for very physical sports. Not that none do, but statistically wise, it's just not what most women tap into in terms of demographics. Now, we found something out recently that's kind of interesting, where when we lost the Las Vegas team, it kind of alluded to the fact that there are WNBA teams out there that are purposely keeping their cap size and brandability small to keep kind of the money and the control of what they have more. The context being that if you have 100 men in an army and you're the head lead, you lead 100 men. But if you get brought into a bigger army with 5,000 men and you're now the second or third lead with maybe 300 to 400 men, yeah, you may have more things going on and more power, but you lose that sense of autonomy. So put that into terms with the WNBA, where more eyes, more looks, more money, but less control over the fate of maybe your franchise or a certain player or whatever. Of course, these are just speculation, but there is, good reason and good thoughts to it. So I'm saying all this and lead back to and say that the issue with Anthony Edwards with the Supermax is that he's looking at $250 million. He just hit the Supermax, and this is insanity. If this young man gets this, he will be a quarter billionaire, one of the wealthiest and richest men on the planet, and will have rightfully so earned it. He's a very hardworking, talented young man with a good head on his shoulders and a lot of good years left for the Timberwolves. And to me, a 4 to 5 year lock on his young pre-prime is a very strong contender for at least the next 2-3 years, especially if they think about what they're going to do with that cat situation, because 0 for 7 in a game that matters is important. It don't matter what he did for the game 5 or whatever, bro. No one cares. You're already down 3-1. You had to bring your team out of that bad deficit, and you sold. And honestly, they need to sell that man cat up the road. He's not that guy, and they need to bring a bigger piece that can really help facilitate for Ant, in my opinion. But Cloudy World, and let me know what y'all think about the situation with Ant and kind of his baby moms and Chief Keef. Honestly, I just don't like seeing a lot of these older women preying on these young men, especially when they have opportunity to make funds. These older women made their decisions and their focuses, and I feel like in these situations it does feel kind of predatory that they're going after these young men, especially because there's a lot of beautiful young women out there too that you're honestly taking the spotlight away from. But again, this is another grown man's choice, and it will always be their choice. But I'm just saying, and I'm bringing some, a little bit of light to how at times it can be a little harder for a young grown man, especially a young grown black affluent man who came from poverty, because there's a lot of angles that people can try to take from you. It isn't always, so easy to tell, especially when it comes to relationships and things like that. So ClowdyWorld, and let me know what y'all think about this Ann situation, the Chief Keef scenario, everything going on with his baby moms, and just how you think if you were in Ann's situation, would you handle it? ClowdyWorld, and we gone.